Hemph. Are you even aware that you depend on us for your life? A small, weak factory like yours will fail if our company wins the contract. You pawn. Just follow my instructions and don't say anything. An employee of the client was requesting that we reduce the cost of our screws. However, I'm proud that our screws are worth the money. I cannot simply drop the price without thinking. I firmly stated, we cannot do that, no matter how much you insist. The person in charge got up and doused me with a hot cup of coffee after I said that. Splat. Oh. I had to let out a cry. It was a rather loud yell, I believe. My skin was already excruciatingly sore and bright red by the time I felt the heat. You small gear in a weak subcontractor's wheel. Who do you think you are? Cut the price of this dreck of a product in half if you don't want us to cancel the contract. Do you understand? My blood ran cold when I heard those words. Does their business work like this? That person in control was doomed to plunge into a chasm after this. Aaron is my name. I'm 35 years old already. This 35-year-old man works in a factory in a small town. Hi, Dad. Today, I'm speaking with the client. Do you have something to say? Just do it like you always do, okay. I got it. Don't call me Dad either. I got a severe glare from the man in front of me. I made a fast correction. I apologize, Mr. Martin. The proprietor of the small-town factory, my dad, returned to the workshop after apparently accepting my correction. Yes, my family owns the tiny plant where I work. We manufacture screws in our facility, including small screws for precise equipment, screws for machinery, and screws for desks and chairs. Despite being a small-town factory, we have secured some rather large jobs. But as usual, it's up to me to handle the clients. At his core, my dad is a true craftsman. His pride is equally as high as his technical prowess. He is awful at negotiating because of his obstinate nature. I am therefore in charge of all client meetings and negotiations. It will only escalate into a fight if Dad leaves. I sighed as I got ready to see the client today. This encounter was with a significant machinery-related company, one of our most valued clients. The biggest trading company we work with among them. Their location in a high-rise structure is very different from our small operation. I walked nervously into the huge lobby. Even after all these visits, I still get anxious. These commercial conversations are still new to me. Nevertheless, I made sure to iron out the wrinkles in the black suit I've gradually been used to before entering the business. Even though my legs were a little unsteady, I approached the receptionist with a strong sense of resolve. I was aware that the individual I was meeting today was the only employee in this organization with that last name. Pardon me. From Martin Factory, I'm Aaron Martin. Is Isaac free? Yes, Mr. Martin, we have been anticipating your arrival. Regarding today, the receptionist looked at me pityingly. Wait, is the meeting not today? I tilted my head anxiously, feeling a bit uneasy. But her response was different from what I expected. Actually, Isaac, the person in charge, is out on a business trip today. Someone else is filling in just for today. You weren't informed. Oh, I see. No, I didn't receive any notice. My sincerest apologies. It was an oversight on our part. No, it's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. I'm truly sorry. I'll call the person in charge immediately. Please wait over there. The receptionist deeply bowed and directed me to a nearby sofa. With a sigh, I sat down. I wondered what kind of person would show up. Isaac, the usual person in charge, is a friendly and approachable guy. He always listens carefully to my clumsy explanations and tries to work things out with me. This company, from the receptionist to everyone else, is full of great people. I bet the new person will be just as nice. All right, let's do this, I said to myself, pumping my fists to psych myself up. Despite my nervousness, I waited expectantly for the new person in charge. Then, a man appeared at the reception desk from the back. After talking briefly with the receptionist, he turned toward me. As soon as I saw his face, an unexplainable feeling of discomfort arose in my chest. Why do I feel this way? The man walked closer. His slightly creepy smile made my skin crawl. As his face came closer, my brain started sounding alarms. I dumbed through my memories. It was a face I never wanted to remember. So, it really is you, Aaron. Wait, is that Noel? Before I knew it, I had spoken my thoughts out loud. The man in front of me was Noah. Unbelievably, he was my old classmate. Didn't expect to see you here, of all places. The son of some weak little factory, Noel said, his words making my blood boil. Yeah, well, I didn't expect to see you either. Weren't you off in Tokyo? I snapped back a bit harder than I intended. But Noah didn't seem to care. He scanned me from head to toe with an obnoxiously appraising gaze. What's with you? It was an unpleasant gaze. It felt like I was being appraised, and that attitude was blatantly on display with no attempt to hide it. Wow, that suit really doesn't suit you. Why don't you stick to wearing dirty overalls like a good little factory worker? Excuse me. Careful now. Are you sure it's a good idea to talk back to your client? Me? Client. You're the one in charge. That's right. And I'm your client. Come on, the meeting room is this way. Bet a poor guy like you doesn't get to walk around buildings this fancy very often. Actually, I've been here plenty of times and know where the meeting room is. Oh sure, like you'd remember. Just don't go stealing anything, you pauper. I wouldn't steal anything. I couldn't hold back my anger and ended up raising my voice. But as it echoed through the floor, I caught sight of the receptionist looking at me with concern. Embarrassed, I quickly shut my mouth. Don't shout, it's embarrassing. That's because you keep saying ridiculous things. I blushed furiously. I followed Noah and gave a slight nod to the receptionist as a small gesture of apology. Why does it have to be him? Oh, just my bad luck. I sighed as I looked at Noah's back. It was a sigh with a completely different meaning this time. I genuinely thought, I really can't stand this guy. Noah, as I mentioned, was my classmate back in school. He graduated from Tokyo University, so he's undoubtedly smart. But his personality, let's just say, it leaves much to be desired. It would have been one thing if he only bragged about himself, but he had no problem making degrading remarks about others. I was one of his targets, too. My family's factory had been well known in our town since I was a kid. It's a small screw factory run by our family, producing screws for all kinds of uses, even tiny rare ones. In a tight-knit rural community like ours, everyone knew about our long-standing business, but Noah always made a mockery of it. Ha, look at you, poor boy. Poor kids always wear dirty overalls and sweat buckets. Disgusting. You're covered in oil. Don't come near me, Noah would say without a second thought. Back then, we were just kids, so I've come to accept it as something inevitable. My dad really was the kind of person who lived for his work. He worked so much that he rarely interacted with people, which often led to misunderstandings. On the rare occasion he stepped out, the townspeople would often see him in his worn, oil-stained overalls. Now that I'm an adult, I sometimes wish my dad had paid more attention to his appearance back then. But the Noah in front of me didn't seem much different from the Noah of those childhood days. I can't believe you're actually working at a factory. It's filthy, smelly. Oh wait, poor people don't get to be picky about jobs, right? Guess you had no choice. Huh. Noah laughed mockingly. I gritted my teeth, determined not to raise my voice again. I never imagined that as adults, I'd once again be on the receiving end of Noah's mockery. With these thoughts swirling in my mind, we finally arrived at the meeting room. It was a large room, and Noah and I sat across from each other. Noah, sort of casually, used the coffee machine in the meeting room to make 2 cups of coffee. Since I feel sorry for a poor guy like you, I'll at least brew you some decent coffee, Noel said. He placed a steaming cup of coffee in a paper cup in front of me. I gave him a slight nod and politely thanked him. Thanks. Poor guys like you don't get to drink coffee very often, do you? Noel's words stung. Patience, patience. I kept telling myself, looking into the coffee. I saw my own tense, scowling face reflected back at me. All right, let's switch gears. I'm here for work after all. I exhaled deeply, trying to reset my thoughts. Then, I showed Noah the materials I had prepared. As I'm sure Isaac mentioned, today we'll be going over this and this carefully. I laid out the documents in front of him. This was, after all, work. I reminded myself that I needed to stay professional and use polite language no matter what. I shifted my tone, trying to remain professional. However, Noah gave the documents a quick glance before leaning back in his chair. He stretched and cracked his neck as if completely uninterested. He showed no sign of actually listening to me. I leaned forward and looked at his face. Are you listening to me? Yeah, I don't need all that. Noah cut me off mid-sentence. Noah wasn't just cutting me off. It was more like he completely shut down the conversation. Does this guy even have any intention of having a discussion? Wait, what? I came here today specifically to discuss this with you, as agreed with Isaac. If it's about that, talk to Isaac. I'm here to discuss something else with you. Wait, what? Didn't Isaac brief you? I'm here to go over these points. I pushed the documents closer to him. No, that doesn't concern me. What? I couldn't help but respond with the same kind of answer. My head was swimming with questions. Today's meeting was supposed to focus on discussing the safety of our screws and how to promote them moving forward. This was something I had agreed to finalize with Isaac during our last conversation. What else is there to discuss? Everything is mostly settled. We just need to finalize these details. There's still something not settled. Okay, but that's not something else. Bang. Noah slammed his hand on the table in frustration. I froze, startled by the sudden noise. Seeing my reaction, Noah seemed satisfied and smirked at me mockingly. You don't get it, do you? These screws are overpriced. Overpriced. Yeah, don't you know the market rates for screws? Yours cost twice as much. That's because you can't even do basic math, huh? Poor boy, or are you just desperate to scrape by? I discussed the price thoroughly with Isaac, and we agreed that it's fair for these screws. No, you're not listening. I'm telling you the price is way off the market. I can't change the price. This price was set after multiple discussions with Isaac. It's not something I can change now. Just tell them you renegotiated with me and lowered it. Drop the price. Noel pulled a pen from his chest pocket and scribbled a number on the documents I had brought. This seems about right. What? That's less than half the current price. That's what the market rate is for screws. These screws are the result of hard work from my dad and me. Yeah, spare me the heartwarming father-son tale. The real world isn't so kind. Just lower the price already. Noah kept repeating, lower the price, like a broken record. This product is... I tried to bring up the topic of the screws again, but Noel made it clear with exaggerated gestures that he had no intention of listening to me. He glared at me lazily, his disinterest evident. But I refused to back down and glared right back at him. Let me make this clear one more time. These screws are overpriced. Lower the price. No, we're sticking with this price, I spoke firmly to Noah. The moment he heard my words, he gave a sly grin. A bad feeling crept over me, and then... Splash! Ah, it's hot. I instinctively clutched my arm. Brown liquid dripped from the table onto the floor in steady drops. I must have shouted quite loudly. I couldn't help but cry out. Noah had poured the steaming coffee in front of him all over me. Reflexively, I moved my body to shield my face, but my arm took the brunt of it. The pain was intense. Hot coffee seeped through my suit sleeve and burned my skin. My arm turned bright red, looking painfully raw. Does anyone normal go this far? I glared at Noah, but he didn't look the least bit remorseful. He just smiled, watching me as if enjoying a show. He didn't even try to wipe up the spilled coffee or show concern for my arm. If anything, he looked proud of himself, like a child savoring the satisfaction of pulling off a prank. Ha, you know your little factory survives because of us, right? If we cancel our contract, your weak little factory will go under in no time. Just do what I tell you. Pawn. Stop talking back. Ha ha ha. He let out a laugh straight out of a cartoon villain. It was a laugh so loud, it made my stomach churn. But I refused to back down and glared at him. No matter how much you demand, we cannot lower the price. Huh, really? Okay, fine then. We'll just cancel the contract. Hope you don't mind your company going under. Throwing hot coffee at a business partner is way worse than canceling a contract. You think a big company like ours is going to back down before a subcontractor? Be realistic. You should be begging us to buy your junk products, even at a discount. Junk? I replayed Noel's words in my mind. The screws my dad and I worked so hard to create were junk. I felt my blood run cold. Anger and a strange calmness mixed within me as I slowly stood up. So, this is how your company operates, is it? I didn't even bother looking at Noah anymore. I couldn't stand to see his face a second longer. Without another word, I walked out of the meeting room. I cradled my burned arm, but Noel's words had numbed the pain. The rage that had been boiling inside me had been replaced by a chilling calm. I realized there was no point in arguing with someone like him. He wasn't worth my time. I left the building. As I walked out, I noticed the receptionist trying to speak to me, but I pretended not to see her and kept going. When I got home, the anger I had suppressed earlier surged back. I told my dad and Mom everything that had happened that day. My dad simply listened and then headed to the workshop without saying a word. Seeing him walk away made me feel even more frustrated. I wanted him to say something. Maybe I wanted him to declare that we'd stop doing business with them entirely. My mom, on the other hand, frowned thoughtfully. Ike worked so hard to handle things properly, and yet they send someone like that as a substitute for the original person in charge. Ike had always taken our screws seriously. He had even said he didn't want to lose us as a partner. Talking it over with my mom, I couldn't help but think something felt off, but no matter how much we mulled over it, nothing would get resolved on our end. Several days passed without any contact from that company. A few days later, the factory's doorbell rang. My dad was in the workshop, and my mom had gone to make lunch. I was the only one available, so I quickly headed to the entrance. Yes? Oh, Isaac? Hello, Aaron. When I opened the door, the first person I saw was Isaac, and standing next to him. Thank you for your time. What? Mr. Yates? I did a double take. It was none other than Mr. Yates, the president of the trading company, standing right there. And next to him, unnoticed until now, was Noah, looking small and sheepish. What brings you here? Oh, please come in. Before asking about their purpose, I quickly led the three of them inside. I got them to the guest room we reserved for visitors, prepared tea, and served it to them. Could this be about that incident? Oh no, are they here to cancel the contract? I'm so sorry, Dad. Sweat began to beat on my hands. Nervously, I sat down in front of the three of them. So, what brings you here today? To my astonishment, Mr. Yates and Isaac both bowed their heads to me. We sincerely apologize. We are so sorry. The two of them apologized in unison. We heard from our receptionist about how Noah handled things the other day. We deeply apologize for his behavior. Oh no, I also raised my voice, and I'm sorry for that. No, no. Your anger was completely justified. I bowed my head alongside them. Then Isaac began to explain the situation. To be honest, while I was on my business trip, we were supposed to contact you to extend the discussion timeline. However, it seems someone changed that plan without permission. Isaac shot a sharp glare at Noah. This Noah took it upon himself to tell our clients that he was the new person in charge during my absence, even though I was still the official contact. He lied and called himself a temporary replacement. Why would he do that? Well, at our company, we've recently set a cost-cutting initiative as a major goal. It seems Noah was overly eager to prove himself as the first to achieve it. Isaac bowed his head again, speaking in a subdued tone. He went on to explain everything thoroughly and with great care, but to summarize, Noah apparently viewed Isaac as his rival. When the company introduced its cost-cutting initiative, Noah saw it as his chance. If he could renegotiate everything Isaac is in charge of and get the prices lowered, he'd achieve the cost-cutting goal and steal Isaac's position. It was a short-sighted and selfish plan. Noah went ahead with his plan, contacting all of Isaac's clients without permission, implementing unapproved cost-cutting measures, making sudden changes to previously settled decisions, and displaying poor behavior during meetings. Seeing this, most of the clients outright rejected Noah's proposals. Some companies even canceled their contracts entirely after dealing with him. It wasn't until Isaac started receiving termination notices that he finally realized what had happened. And that's the situation right now. We're going around apologizing to all of our clients. That's quite a mess. I couldn't find the right words to respond. For such a large corporation, they must have countless clients, and yet the president, Mr. Yates, came here personally with Isaac to apologize to us. Once again, we are truly sorry. Hey, you apologize? Mr. Yates said, nudging Noah, who stood shrinking into himself. But even as he shrank, Noah didn't look remorseful in the slightest. He didn't offer any words of apology or even bow his head. He just pouted with his lips pressed together. Hey, you're the one who caused all this trouble. Apologize properly, Isaac urged. This is ridiculous, Noah muttered. Mr. Yates, these products are clearly overpriced. Isn't this factory also at fault? Enough. Don't underestimate this screw factory. Isaac snapped, silencing Noah in an instant. Noah's posture straightened up as if snapped into attention. Even so, he began stammering and fumbling for excuses. But the market price for screws, he began, only to be interrupted. How many times have I explained that this factory produces rare, specialized screws? Isaac cut in. There's nothing special about screws, Noah muttered dismissively. Isaac and Mr. Yates let out a collective, exasperated sigh. It was clear Noah still didn't understand. I stood up, realizing there was no other way to make him see. I retrieved one of our screws and held it out to him. What now? This is one of the screws we make here. Huh. Just an ordinary screw. Noah's dismissive words made both Mr. Yates and Isaac turn pale. Are you an idiot? How can you not recognize the screw? How long have you been in this industry? Isaac asked, his voice sharp. I lifted the screw to give Noah a closer look. This screw is used in bullet trains, precision equipment, and other critical applications where lives are at stake. What? A tiny no-name factory like this makes those? Noel scoffed, clearly unbothered. The screw had a slightly different shape from ordinary ones. It was a design I had meticulously refined over the years. This factory produces screws that no other factory can, and these screws are essential components in applications where lives are on the line. As a middle schooler, I grew up watching my dad at work. Like Noah said, my family wasn't wealthy. We weren't dirt poor, but we often struggled to make ends meet. But even as a child, I understood that my dad's rare skills were highly sought after, and that he worked tirelessly to meet those needs. Watching him dedicate himself to his craft, I felt a growing desire to support him. I began imitating my dad's work, coming up with ideas of my own, and eventually learned to create things myself. Although my dad was a stoic and stubborn man who rarely smiled, he had an open mind when it came to embracing new ideas. Whenever I created a new screw, my dad would always smile, truly happy. Seeing the normally serious and busy expression on his face light up with joy made me so happy that I became fully absorbed in screw making. It must be that focus and skill I inherited from him. Now I've created a one-of-a-kind screw here in this small factory, and I take pride in this work. I don't make things that deserve to be priced carelessly, as if saying, "This should do," or "This seems fair." Small and rural, though we may be, the screws my family and I create are the best in the world, or so I believe. I'm not stupid enough to just lower the price because someone tells me to. I looked straight at Noel. I wasn't the person who used to be pushed around by him anymore. I took pride in my work and in myself. What about you? Do you have any pride after trying to steal someone else's work? Noah faltered, unable to respond. The room fell silent. All that could be heard was the sound of my dad hammering something in the workshop, a rhythmic clang, clang. The quiet atmosphere seemed unbearable for Noah, and slowly he bowed his head to me. I'm sorry, he said, his voice small. Noah offered me a genuine apology. I nodded, accepting it. A few days later, Noah went around personally apologizing to me and to every other client he had inconvenienced. Afterward, Mr. Yates demoted Noah, assigning him to a dead-end position often referred to as a sideline role, where he worked for a while. Somehow, word got out, and Noah became infamous as the guy who threw coffee at a client, making it impossible for him to stay at the company, ultimately leading to his resignation. Now, he appears to be quietly working at a smaller company. At my family's small-town factory, my dad and mom met again with Mr. Yates and Isaac, who apologized once more. My dad accepted, and we have since continued our partnership with their company without issue. Since that incident, Isaac has started providing regular updates. The company has also implemented stricter internal and external communication protocols to prevent similar mistakes. With these measures in place, such issues are unlikely to happen again. And so, I returned to my life of working alongside my dad every day. I found myself mirroring his serious expression as we focused on our work. Having declared my pride in our craft, I became even more dedicated to improving my skills. Watching this, my mom couldn't help but smile. Like father, like son. You both make the exact same face when you're working. Her comment made me laugh. Ha! Oh, even Dad's smiling. Shut up and get back to work. Yes, Mr. Martin. I quickly peered at the screw in my hand through a magnifying glass, fine-tuning its intricate details. The screw I was working on was still in development. I hope to create another amazing screw that will make my dad smile. I want the three of us, as a family, to live even happier days together.